Good morning. My name is Lara, and I welcome you to another edition of Sunday Morning Dose. Here at Sunday Morning Dose, we look at God's Word from Christ's perspective. We usually say to ourselves here that if a principle or a lesson will not make sense to Christ, it shouldn't make sense to us as followers of Christ, as someone who is considered to be exactly like Christ here on earth. So, our belief is that every believer in Christ, every Christ follower should live up to that name indeed, truly. So, we should look at how Christ lived and we should pattern our lives to be exactly just as Christ here on earth. So, we'll continue the conversation we started about the fact that the stories in the Bible are beyond stories. The narrations in the Bible are beyond stories. There are vital lessons to be learned from these narrations, and we have been looking at some of the lessons and some of the stories. One of the popular story in the Bible which we looked at a week ago was about the story of David and the Goliath. And today we'll be looking at another quite interesting and popular story in the Bible. You actually don't need to be a church goer to know some of these stories. Talking about the story of Jesus turning water into wine is a popular story. But beyond stories, that's what we're doing here. What are the lessons that we could draw out from those stories? Because stories are peculiar to event and time, but lessons and principles, truths are universal. They are universal in time and in space, in such a way that if it worked 5,000 years ago, it could work in present day. Just like the story, the principle of sowing and reaping, the principle of putting seeds into the ground and harvesting is a age-long principle rather, but yet is still delivering on its promises even to this present time. And that is how powerful principles and truth can be to our lives. So we should encourage ourselves. We should get into that habit of drawing out lessons, principles, truth from these stories. So let's look at John, the story of how Jesus turned water into wine. Is in the book of John, chapter 2, verse 1 to 12. So we have a lesser verses compared to what we had to deal with the other time. So the wedding at Cana. The wedding at Cana. John chapter 2, verse 1 to 12. So we would encourage that you go ahead and study this in your own spare time, while we just bring out some of the lessons and the principles that we can export into our lives and begin to generate massive results with them. So in verse 2, Jesus and his followers were also invited to the wedding. So if this, for me, I see this verse 2 to be one of the most important parts of this story. Jesus was invited. The reason Jesus was at the wedding there could be a miracle in the first place was because Jesus was invited. Jesus was invited, and it is interesting today that the principle of inviting Jesus is taking a back seat to the principle to just going to church or inviting people into our lives or inviting a special man of God. But in this case, Jesus was invited. So I want you to ask yourself, in that situation, how often do you constantly invite Jesus into your case? Because there would never have been a miracle if Jesus was not at this wedding. Jesus was invited to the wedding. That was why there could be a miracle in the first place. So go ahead and invite Jesus. What does this mean? Invite professionals into your businesses. Invite professionals into your life. Go seek medical report if there is need for that. Invite professionals into your life. Go get help. Go get help. Go get professional help if there is need. Go get professional help if there is need. Go get a lawyer if you need one. Go get a professional help and invite them into that matter. It's just like the Philistines invited and went to hire Goliath that we discussed a week ago. They went to get a professional. So you also need to get a professional. So they did, one of the things the organizers did rightly here was that they invited Jesus. So go invite professionals. When, verse 3, when all the wines had gone, Jesus' mother said to him, "They have no more wine." So what is the principle here? Jesus' mother felt a need to solve problem, felt a need to do something about the fact that they had no resources anymore. Contrary to what most of us would believe, that in solving people's problem, we have to solve it. I believe it's a principle that the first place to start in resolving issues is at the place of praying for people. It's a major principle. It's at the place of inviting Jesus into that matter. It's at the place of getting Jesus' attention into any matter. That the very first place that we should start in resolving issues for people, for our loved ones, is not getting to interfere with their personal lives or personal family first. Is to intercede at the point of prayer, at the point of communicating with Jesus. So get what Jesus' mother would do, get Jesus' attention to the fact that these guys at this wedding needs help. They need wine. They need wine. So get to pray for someone. Pray for someone. In resolving issues, pray for someone. Get them a help that they need. So what does this mean? In literal word, it means that we could put a call across to the person we know could do something about someone's matter, instead of just interrogating the matter with no idea for solution. Put a call across to someone that could be of help. You know a marketer, and you know someone having issues selling. Put a call across to the marketer, to the professional marketer, and get them to assign them to help the business sell more. It could be that easy, that in seeking for help, we must be able to seek professionals. We must be able to seek professional help. We must be able to seek professional help. So Jesus' mother went to Jesus because Jesus could actually do something about the matter. So in verse 5, his mother said to the servant, "Do whatever he tells you to do." So I have solicited for a consultant, and then your job is to obey the consultant. Your job is to obey the consultant. I see a whole lot of people arguing with their consultants, maybe medical consultants, legal consultants, accounting consultants. They constantly argue with their consultant. That is not a wise thing to do. The wise thing to do when you have gotten yourself a consultant or a professional is to listen to that professional, is to obey his or her commands, is to obey the person's commands. You don't seek for help when you think you know better than the person you have gone to seek help from. You obey the person. You align yourself to the thought and the suggestion of the person. If you are not comfortable with the ideas of the person, with the professionalism of the person, with the capabilities of the person, that's different. You could change the person. But when you are comfortable with the capacity of that consultant, with the capacity of the professional that you have hired, then obey them. Obey them. Simply just follow the instruction. Simply just follow the instruction. I have this a story that was told that a guy was told to come and assemble an electronic product, and then while he was assembling it, the owner said, "Look, there is a manual here, read it." And the guy said, no, it's not important, I know this job." And while he was assembling it, the next thing they hear is that they had a sound, and it was a sound of the electronic device getting burned. It blew off, and then due to high voltage. So the guy said, "Oh, it's like this thing don't blow." in PG, it's like this thing don't blow. And then the owner said, "It was written here that this device only supports this voltage. It was written in the manual." But he would not go with the manual because he was disobeying professionals. These are professionals. So when you simply meet professionals, what you simply just do is a law, it's a principle, is to align your thoughts and your beliefs and your ideas to theirs, because that is a principle. Once you have gotten someone who is higher in thought than you, simply just align your thought to theirs. So Jesus said to the servant, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled the jars to the top. So what is the principle here? Fill the jars with water. If you read the previous verse before this, the Bible acknowledges that they had a lot of jars, and they were big in sizes, and quite a number of them. So develop capacity. You would think many people are looking to Jesus or their professionals to do akrabadaba, to do magic. No, that is not what professionals, and that is not what Jesus would do. Jesus simply worked with the things they already have. So you could develop the jars is your responsibility. The resources of jars is your responsibility. The resources of water is your responsibility. Develop those capacity within your responsibility. It's a principle. You are not going to get help that would superimpose the capacity on you. No. The help you are going to get, the best of professional helps that you are going to get, will maximize your capacity, what you already have. So develop capacity. Develop capacity for creating large jars. Large jars. Develop capacity. Your jars could be knowledge, could be certificates, could be exposure, traveling. Develop capacity. Develop capacity. Develop capacity. And then you simply ask them, go fill the waters go fill the jars with waters. So develop capacity. Jesus is not just going to come into this situation and use something that is beyond you. Jesus is going to use you. For instance, if you have a message or an information that could transform our nation or the people, then develop capacity in developing public speaking skills. It is important. Develop the capacity. If you have vision to transform a space, then develop capacity in leadership. Develop capacity in those areas, because Jesus is not just going to come and you turn a 20 jars into 50 jars. That is not his job. His job is to work with the resources within your disposal, within your reach, and that is Jesus's job. Then in verse 8, he said to them, now take some out and give it to the master of the feast. So the servant took the water to the master. So the principle here is that you must start from top. In affecting a society, in affecting a community, you must start from top. Look for influencers in that environment. Look for an organization. Look for influencers in that environment. I usually like to use this scenario of someone looking for a contract in a company, and he has been having nice conversation with the people who are working there. Yes, you should have conversation with the people who are working there, but you should also know that you need a decision maker to be seated on the table so as not to waste your time. So imagine if you have invested a year to investing in having communication with the people who are working in the company, but for the past that period of time you have not had conversation with the decision maker. Let's imagine that at the point of decision making, then the decision maker said, I'm not happy with this, your idea, and I think we will go with some other person. So look for the person that is the decision maker and address their needs first. Get their feedback. You could get the others' feedback, but get their feedback. In an environment where it's governed by influencers and celebrities, you may want to get influencers to do the marketing for your product. Get the influencers, because people are not necessarily thinking. So you need someone who is thinking for them, who is suggesting solutions for them, who is literally the industry lead of that sector. So get an influencer, get the thought leader of that sector, and address their need first. Get their feedback. It might not even be that they should market that product for you. It might be to get them to use the product and give you their feedback. But get the thought leaders, because if you are able to get the thought leaders, you will get the followers. That is it. So Jesus said, go and serve the master of the ceremony first. Go and get the feedback from the master of the ceremony. Verse 10, and said to him, people always serve the best wine first. Later, after the guests have been drinking a lot, they serve the cheaper wine. But you have served the best wine till now. What is the principle? Under promise and over deliver. And this could apply in any situation and any sector of our lives, be it relationship, be it business, be it family. Let's learn the principle of over delivering and under promising. The master of ceremony said, wow, this is a different ceremony, because unlike the usual ceremony we go to, they serve us, they give us their best when we want to meet them. Then after we have met them, after we become more relational, then they start giving us their worst. Isn't that what happened in relationship? Why do you think relationship keep breaking day by day? Because someone went all out, over promised, and then eventually when they get to meet each other and when they get to spend more time with each other, they realize that, oh, this is a bad product. So they under promises. So the lesson here, the principle here, at work, at home, in your family, in whatever you do, make sure that your best is reserved at the latter end. Give your best at first, but make sure that the best of your best is at the latter end. Make sure that the people who get the best juice out of you, the best of yourself out of you, are the people who are closest to you, not people who are on the outside. And that's what people do. They give out to attract the best, and once they attract the best, they start giving out the people who truly love them in their lives, the nasty behaviors that they could dish out. Don't let that be you. The principle here is to under promise and over deliver. Under promise and over deliver. Then lastly, so in Cana of Galilee, Jesus did his first miracle. There he showed his glory, and his followers believed him. There he showed his glory, and his followers believe in first time possibility. It has not been done before. There is always a first time possibility. It's a principle. Jesus had not done any miracle before until now. So this miracle was recorded, or it was the first miracle that was recorded of Jesus' miracles. And it was done in unlikable places, or place you may want to say, and to unlikable situation, creating wine from water. So there is always first time possibilities. So try it, give it a try. Believe that it is possible. The principle of possibility is a valid principle. To believe that all things are possible is a principle. It's a principle that have effect in our spiritual life and also have effect in our personal and daily lives. The principle, the motive of going into another day, that it could be today and it can be today. There is always first time possibility. No matter how long you have tried, no matter how long you have invested into something, always believe that there is a first time possibility and that all things are possible to you. So I hope you are beginning to see that the stories in the Bible are beyond stories. The narrations are beyond stories. They are filled with principles that, if taken, can affect our lives in such a positive way we could ever dream. So keep looking at these stories and keep drawing out principles from them, because it could save lives, and it could save lives. So I hope we'll take this to heart, and then we'll begin to have conversations with these stories in the Bible and make sure that it's beyond stories. So till we see some other time, same station next week. This is Sunday Morning Dose. It is beyond stories. Thank you.